Blessing, blessing, blessing. Welcome to Reasons Right at the Tree of Life. I'm your host, the Great Owl, and it is a pleasure being here with you. And we're just going to forward into episode 3 of Kinematic Masters of Deception as we look at the edited, abridged versions of our realities that we know inhabit, especially as it relates to us Aboriginals who are called black man and black woman. All of these definitions in Grimm's Black Law book, right? Which is basically a whole lot of sorcery and spells and interpretation, really ways of deception to deceiving you into thinking you're someone else, right, or something else. And if you give up your sovereign right, well, what sensible living man would give up his birthright for a morsel of bread, right? Don't allow yourself to be deceived. And so here's one of the main reasons why deception happens on this kinematic journey. We have a whole heap of internalization of self-hurt and self-hurt in self-image. And for Aboriginals, they feel vain, without value, unloved, and underappreciated, or sometimes non-appreciated. And so the ones who consider ourselves smartest, at first we are told to draw to, assimilate, acclimatize ourselves with the prevailing ideologies around us. But for some of us, the ancestral stirrings are too strong, because I had visions when I was a child, hallelujah. So I never doubted that the earth was black for its entire heritage up until the last couple of thousand years, right? I never need to be told this because as a child, this was always inside my consciousness, right? Some might say I was very aware from my past life, whatever. Once I used to seek power from that and strength from that, I don't anymore because I'm a living being. So that is just to know our ancestry, hallelujah, to know the origins of our species. And it is through Yodevav, hey, no, I'm not going to pretend like I'm some Western intellectual, amorphous Christian wannabe scholar. Don't even try that. Listen to me. You can hear problems in my idiom and in my grammar. You might say, well, psychologically, it sounds like he's a perfectionist because he's pointing it out in himself. No, it's to point at something in you. And in those who look at individuals according to a design, an ideology, and we might say, we don't do that really. Well, what are you? Are you a follower of Christ? Are you Rastafari? So tell me now, how do you think about life? And show me, prove to me that your gaze upon Rastafari or your gaze upon your philosophical don't affect how you perceive things. Some people are immediately turned off because it's all in nature. Some are immediately going to click past this because of how I appear. Some are immediately going to click past because I don't look appealing enough. All ideas, opinions, and some are going to go beyond because they're going to hear what I'm saying. They have a little bit more patience, but they're still not going to stay. And so these edits are sold to us as idealisms or as the absolute goodness of behaviors and outcomes. And so we have an idea of who we should be. Broken, hurt Aboriginals here in the West and all across terra firma cleave to these ideologies of definitions and so become the most tribalistic in belief, not behavior driven. Belief driven, not behavior driven. What do I mean? If it is behavior driven, there'll be constant wars amongst us because it's just a compunction in behavior to be violent. The division is belief driven. So then next ask yourself, where did this belief come from? If they're not behaviorally driven, so they're not some behavioral bias that we learned from each other. So where did they come from? Aha. Kinematics, it's an outside, it's a projection. Somebody's projecting this onto us. And so us, the so-called hurt, broken, disenfranchised in your psychology, black man and woman, going into the institution of the oppressors to be educated, have edited out before they even go through the door any notions of them being of value, because they go through there valueless, sinful, without merit or value, and will come out valuable after spending all of your parents' money and scraping and hooking and tricking and selling drugs, whatever you had to do, and scraping and deceiving to have value. And if you didn't go through those institutions, you work hard and slave yourself slavishly for hours to acquire material things to present an image of yourself. An image, I say. because it doesn't have to be actuality. An image of yourself that suggests value. These are the editings. These are the kinematic masteries that has got us valueless thinkers in ourselves, no respect for ancestors, they're slaves, they're this, whatever. And so we're going to be educated, we're going to be assimilated, we're going to be good boys and girls, we're going to do the right thing and allow them to control us so we can have a few dollars, wear a few suits of clothes that is made from the natural environment that we used to know how to make. 200 years ago, we all could make our own clothing and several other things, but with that's been edited out as industrialization and the growth in the advertising industry in the 40s, let's say the 20th century, the early 20th century, caused individuals to think that industry could do tasks better than you could do it at home. So the industry edited us to think, oh, machines in a big vat in a factory could cook means better than a loving wife, mother, father, brother, sister, whoever in the family, of the actuality of your narrative, in your nativity, in your home, in your family, where the Most High reside. They convinced us, well, convinced you, that it was okay. Matter of fact, it was better to go out and buy industrial food with all these fats and chemicals and industrial things that you, your mama, your papa, your great uncle, mama generation would have never pot one ago. Would have never put that in your pot. Never eat that. But they eat it in these sweets, in these cakes, in these so-called gastronomic delights, puffing you up. Gluttony. Edited versions. So the 20th century advertising convinced a lot of people, right, that the food that we prepared was not of value. The stuff that we farmed were not valuable anymore. As a matter of fact, they're so convinced us that our technology was so out of date, they matter of fact brought in chemical, mechanical, industrial, destroyed the quality, did everything centrifugally and destroyed the land, but central-peachally was where the land was a permanent agriculture, permaculture, not the ideology, the actuality of our ancestors did it and could be able to farm on the land for millennia. But however, the modern kinematic edit told us that, just like the neon lights, that this is better. This is actually more you, and we're evolving, not devolving now. Because evolve is supposed to go forward, and devolve is going backwards, meaning you lost knowledge and senses that you previously have. Hope you're getting me, you know. Do you hear what I just said? Evolution, as they suggest to us, is the essence of moving forward, growth. But in actuality, did you hear me? In actuality, it is devolution. It is losing skills that you previously had. So now you can feel proud in what you can do, whether carpentry, whether farming, whether husbandry of animals, whether education, gnosis of the folklore, the griot, the preservation of the family. You lost respect for your own anthropology, your own cosmological gnosis. And so because you lost respect for it, you go now into the institutions to be devolved, not evolved, devolved, because they're teaching you a way that will destroy that which has been in you for millennia. That's how you disrespect, hallelujah, your mothers and your fathers and the living God. Hey, that's how you do it. You're not evolving, you're devolving. Losing those gifts so you can no longer make things for yourself. You're dependent upon a wage. You're a wage earner. Right? I know the enemy is trying, but can't try me too much. Haba. Hey, now you're a wage earner. A page turner to a wage earner. And so now your identity is wrapped up in what you gotta go do. Your sense of worth and value is in what you're gonna go do. And so now you're gonna leave what is sacrosanct in you, authentic, ontological, you're the empirical actual, hey, in you, as your ancestors. You're going to leave that and go into something you do not know, have never experienced. Industrialization, technological so-called advancement, to abort the history and the heritage of your people, disempower their heritage. Now giving your strength to the heritage of the destroyers, those who are the editors, those who are the programmers, the minders and the handlers. Giving all of our gifts to them. You welcome them into your ancestral sacred home. You inherited it, but you didn't respect it. You respect your PhD more. So you brought people in and gave them valuable things that maintain not just some hocus pocus supernatural knowledge, but a vibratory DNA heartbeat telegraphical connection. It's living, breathing as you. And beyond the edits in the telomeres, that is the genetical modification, because we've got all of them, it's a lot. Our true nature knows these things. We know why we carve these things in the old petrified trees. We know why, hey, we did those things. We knew why we did certain things, and we still know inside that epigenetic, as they call it, the DNA heartbeat telegraphics, we call it, because that's what it is. It's a message that's being spoken through the heart chakra, yeah? That 432, that's 7.8 hertz. The actuality of the natural man being edited into the 20th and 21st century idea of a man who knows nothing of the organic and biological nature of life anymore. And those who do are called botanists, and in the fauna kingdom are called zoologists, and they are highly specialized and trained to examine the natural environment and the ideology. And that ideology is harmonic and atomic. It's an edited. It's from a position of that's not me, because the genes have been edited in them to be unfeeling, unknowing towards all things. So the harpsichords that connects us to all other living beings are being cut. The emotional ties are being cut, edited out. Cold, unemotionless beings being presented to us as empirical modern man. I did videos about modern man. Modern man who sees himself in an ideology of a nation state that did not exist 500 years ago, or in a belief system that's only been 1,000 years old. What is belief system to actuality? When actuality has been here for millennia. That is what the natural persons is all about. And if you're not enshrined in the natural law, then you're going to be in the straw man, the fictitious person, the kinematic edit. And so in the previous video, we talked about the cinematic coming through from the theatrical into the Gutenberg into printed press. And then I skipped a little, jumped up, because I had already laid it out, so I skipped and jumped up to the magazines, which was a representation of the printed press as I came to the end of the argument. And that representation of the printed press in the magazine brought the graphic element where now you could bring the laminate, right? A more visual element into looking at the image, bring it closer to what you're looking at in actuality, so it could evoke that similar feeling of actuality. But the essence was it was now an ideological imagery in the graphics that was being presented. That is the kinematic edit, to change you from the image of your God and Creator, to edit your genes in all these dimensions, right? And so we said we're going to talk about in the next episode, which is this episode, this video, the sound edit, right? And so the sound edit, you have the infra sounds and you have the ultrasound. So the infrasounds now are those that are beneath the audibility of the human hearing perception, and the ultrasounds are above the audibility of the human perception. That's why ultrasound can use as a resonance scan, right? It's above our audibility. But that sound frequency, those two sound frequencies are very important, because when they were discovered in the modern, they were weaponized. So don't think they're not weaponized, they're weaponized. So when we're talking about sound frequency, we're going to talk about weaponized frequency. So you're saying weaponized, yes, weaponized frequency. Because frequency of kilohertz, megahertz, ultrahertz, right, have different resonant effect upon the being. Played in different syncopations, as Christ once said, the good things mixed in the wrong proportion leads to bad things. And so when these frequencies are mixed together, they create a weaponized frequency. And the first weaponized frequencies that we recognize in the biblical and the book of prophecy was when we marched around the walls of Jericho with the shofar, and we sang and we chanted. So that is a weaponized sound frequency, right? That something was going out into the ether there, that was generated by the 7 days of marching and chanting vibrationally, that a sound went out into the frequency, into the ether, that vibrated in exact resonance with the walls, that they were toppled. Because for 7 days, 6 days prior, the walls and the frequency around became saturated in an infrasound, and ultrasound. No, it built up to the ultrasound actually. Hey, from the infrasound it built up to the ultrasound that literally pulsed and materialized the destruction of the wall. Cymatics again, right? But cymatics is a weaponized frequency. So I mentioned that to connect to the weaponized frequency of sound. When they went on the battlefield, they had drums and bugles and all these things to intimidate, because they observed the animals and their sounds of warfare. Because I was telling Brother Rahman this too, that war is really a sound frequency. Hallelujah. We're going to go into it further on in other videos. So the sound frequency, when the animals get angry and they go, and you can hear it, the lions roar, everybody roaring, everybody. When you get angry and loud and boisterous, you turn into a violent nature, right? And so the weaponized sounds on the battlefields transposed itself into voluntary, right, of sounds. And we're going back long before European wars, right? But we're talking about the edit now, because before the European wars, right, our ancestral warfare in the cymatics, right, was cosmic. It was cosmic, and we saw it as a fight of good and evil, hey, bad and good, right? We harmonized the energy of terra firma Gaia in the central spirit of Yod He Vav E in the astral planes. We harmonized it, right? And so this central frequency we used as a weapon against the darkness upon the plane. So we used it, but we're talking about the kinematic edit in the European. So the fervor and valor of the music that comes from the battlefield was trumped and hailed, not just in requiems of those who died on the battlefield, but in songs of pomp, pageantry, and voluntary, right? So people begin to promote bravery. It's brave, so the songs, brave and strong warrior. He deserves to have 7 baby mothers, the most children in the actuality of our polygamous nature. That's how it was. Hey, today we call it just being a rock star, superstar, reggae star, right? And what is he supposed to be promoting? The same kind of energy of fear and intimidation, right? So we call it the bad man culture. Hey boy, you know what me? Pan the rhythm, you get you get bum bum. Hey, oi, easy, hold up. Big lion, big dog bark, no man answer. Yeah. And so the thuggish, bad, brave becomes the motivating factor of the male ego, because we're broken. And the kinematic edit now got us thinking not to be valiant warriors for our generation, but to be disingenuous thugs and gang members with jealousy and hatred and greed. Them versus we, are we versus them. Them can't stop we now. Them can't stop we flow, cause we no clown to them world. We no clown to them flow. We know where them are coming down. We know where them are go. Them are we enemy. Them are we enemy. It no matter if we used to eat out of one plate. It no matter if we used to walk down and pull the same gate. Them are enemy. Enemy. And so they taught us to be hateful, wicked towards ourselves. And that is a behavior that is accepted in the music, right? So the sound warfare now have us in this violent image of who we are as this wicked, thuggish, bad gangster. Man, a gangster on the street, I cut a key a day. Me and my friend rolling life from yesterday. Money, yo, money, ho, making it, yo. Making that dough, I kill a nigga, yo. I don't care what happened, yo, I got to grow. In my Bentley rolling and smoking my high grade hydro. Yo, Jamaicans, Americans, we flowing it, yo. Hip hop and reggae dancehall, so we know. We're violent, we're wicked, cause a fussy can't test. You're best, you're blessed. And so we're edited. Edited. But Bob Marley, who came and said, one love, one art, one aim. Let's get together and feel alright. Talk about one love. Talk about one heart. Let's get together and feel alright. Or every man got the right to decide his own destiny, and in this judgment there is no partiality. So hands in arms with arms we get together to fight a little struggle. And brother, you're right, you're right, you're right. We got to fight. Brother, you're right, you're right, you're right. Yeah. Yeah, man, we got to fight. Fighting for rights. So not to fight it in a step it up in a Zimbabwe. Yeah, man. Creatively, sound warfare. So we're showing you how they edited it out. Made us vicious, visual, and wicked towards each other. Versus the music, like reggae music, that came as a surprise on their scene, on their stage, through Bob Marley, that broke that and represented the cry of the ancestors. Thousands of years of oppression and subjugation, hundreds of years of confusion in Jamaica, right? This manipulative, self-seeking, schizophrenic tendency being placed upon us to be divisive, self-hating, uncaring, because the image you have of yourself didn't come from you. And so you're hurtful, and you're hurting, and you believe this to be you, and you're angry, you're bitter, and you just gotta spill it out violently against your children, against your woman, against your family, against your brethren. And so we think this is who we are. This sound warfare through music and entertainment got us selling our morals to be seen and accepted again in front of the stage of the enemy, in the eyes of the enemy, clowning us, laughing while we're being disingenuous to our own family. We don't take our money and invest it amongst our own communities. We don't build our families, because what happens to one happens to many. That's why you can have so many so-called wealthy Aboriginal blacks, yeah, in this so-called modern society, and yet we are without respect, because all of us cannot equally be respected within the higher echelons by the power that they, under their privilege, hold, right? So when these so-called blacks making it, they've assimilated, right, into the system, and they leave the true nature and true image of themselves, yeah. And so when they're in entertainment, they're very destructive, right? They want to turn your daughters into pimps, into hoes, and your sons into pimp, to literally, through the sexual perversion, manipulate and destroy your genetics. So we see that it's going to be a little bit rainy, so we're going to take a little break right here, and we're going to come right back.